وقضي بينهم بالحق وقيل الحمد لله رب العالمين.
Ladies and gentlemen all over the world, peace be with you again, and welcome to the third episode of Science Leads You to Allah. In the previous episode, we had a look at the book The Evidence of God in the Expanding Universe, in about 40 scientists representing, as I said before, representing almost all branches of science, confirmed the idea and agreed on the idea that this designed universe must have a designer. In this episode, of course, we didn't cover all the scientists in the book. I mean, if you want more details, please go back to the book, The Expanding God in the, The Evidence of God in the Expanding Universe. In this episode, we'll see more scientists confirming these facts. The scientists we are going to see today, some of them are considered the fathers of science, like Mr. Isaac Newton and Albert Einstein, and some of them are Nobel Prize winners, like Max Planck, Erwin Schrödinger, etc. All these facts and quotes are taken from the book 15 Nobel Laureates and Other Great Scientists Who Believe in God by Mr. Tihomer Dimitrov. For the references and more details, it is advisable, please go back to this book. Let us start by Albert Einstein, the author of The Theory of Relativity. He says, the deeper one penetrates into nature's secrets, the greater becomes one's respect for God. And also he says, the more I study science, the more I believe in God. And also he says, in view of such harmony in the cosmos, which I, with my limited human mind, I am able to recognize, there are yet people who say that there is no God. But what really makes me angry is that they quote me for the support of such views. Max Planck, the formulator of quantum theory, he says, both religion and science need for their activities the belief in God. Erwin Schrödinger, the founder of wave mechanics, he says, Schrödinger claims that science is a creative game. Science is a creative game with rules, which are, the rules which are designed by God Himself. Werner Heisenberg, Nobel Prize in Physics for the creation of quantum mechanics, he says, the first gulp from the glass of natural sciences will turn you into an atheist. But at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting. God is waiting for you. Robert Millikan, Nobel Prize in Physics for his work on the elementary charge of electricity and on the photoelectric effect, he says, to me, it is unthinkable that a real atheist could be a scientist. A real atheist could be a scientist. I repeat, to me, it is unthinkable to think that it is unthinkable that a real atheist could be a scientist. And also he says, I have never known a thinking man who did not believe in God. Charles Townes, the inventor of the laser, he says, I strongly believe in the existence of God based on intuition, observations, logic, and also scientific knowledge. And also he says, physical laws are laws that are made or God made. They are made by God. Arthur Schawlow, co-inventor of the laser, he says, God is absolutely necessary to explain the origin and the essence of human consciousness. And also he says, scientific research is a worshipful act in that it reveals more of the wonders of God's creation. William Phillips says, science shows us how God created the universe. Guglielmo Marconi is the inventor of the radio. He says, the more I work with the powers of nature, the closer I am to the great truth that everything is dependent on the eternal creator and sustainer. Arthur Compton, he says, it is incontrovertible that where there is a plan, there is intelligence. Arno Penzias, he says, by looking at the order in the world, we can infer purpose, and from purpose we begin to get some knowledge of the creator, the planner of this. Neville Mott, he says, God is absolutely necessary to explain the origin and the essence of human consciousness. Isidore Ishaq Rabi, he says, physics brought me far from God. No, physics brought me closer to God. Abdul Salam, a Pakistani director of the International Center for the Theoretical Physics, he says, this sense of wonder leads most scientists to a superior being. Anthony Hoish, Nobel Prize in Physics for his discovery of pulsars. To the question, what do you think about the existence of God? Prof. Hoish replied, I believe in God. It makes no sense to me to assume that a universe and our existence is just a cosmic accident that life emerged due to random physical processes and in an environment which simply happened having the right properties. Joseph H. Taylor, he says, our knowledge of God is made larger with every discovery we make about the world. Christian Anfinsen, he says, to the question, he was asked, many prominent scientists, including Darwin, Einstein, and Planck, have considered the issue and the idea of God seriously. What are your thoughts on the concept of God and the existence? God and on the existence of God. He replied, he says, I think only an idiot can be an atheist. Richard Smalley, he says, it is increasingly clear to modern science that the universe was exquisitely fine-tuned to enable human life. Now let us, ladies and gentlemen, move to some scientists considered to be the founders and the fathers of science. Let us start by Sir Isaac Newton. He says, this most beautiful system of the sun, planets and comets could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligent and powerful being. This being governs all things not as the soul of the world, but as Lord over all. And also he says, atheism is so senseless and odious to mankind that it never had any professors. Can it be by accident that all birds, beasts, and men have their right side and left side alike shaped? And just two eyes and no more on either side, one here and one here, and just two ears and no more, and the nose with two holes, and either two forelegs or two wings or two arms on the shoulders and two legs on the hips and no more. He says, we are therefore to acknowledge one God, infinite, eternal, omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent, the creator of all things, most wise, most just, most good, most holy. Now, and he says, atheism is so senseless. Atheism is so senseless. When I look at the solar system, I see the earth at the right distance from the sun to receive the proper amount of heat and light. This did not happen by chance. Galileo Galilei, the founder of experimental physics, he says, "When I reflect on so many profoundly marvelous things that persons have grasped, sought and done, I recognize even more clearly that human intelligence is a work of God and one of the most excellent." Nicholas Copernicus, the founder of heliocentric cosmology, says, to know the mighty works of God, to comprehend His wisdom and majesty and power, to appreciate in degree the wonderful working of His laws, surely all this must be a pleasing and acceptable mode of worship to the Most High. Johannes Kepler, he says, he is the founder of physical astronomy and modern optics. He says, I give thee thanks, Creator, that thou hast given me this joy in thy creation, and I rejoice in the works of thy hands. Again, Sir Francis Bacon, the founder of scientific inductive method, he says, it is true. It is true that a little philosophy inclines man's mind to atheism, but depth in philosophy brings man's minds about to religion. René Descartes, the founder of analytical geometry and modern philosophy, says it is absolutely true that we must believe in God. Sir Michael Faraday, he says, I bow before Him who is the Lord of all. And he says, the book of nature which we have to read is written by the finger of God. Sir James Clerk Maxwell. Who is Maxwell? Ladies and gentlemen, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica 1997, James Clerk Maxwell is regarded by most modern physicists as the scientist of the 19th century who had the greatest influence on the 20th century physics. He says, Almighty God who has created man in thine own image. Maybe this dialect is Irish or Scottish. He says, Almighty God who hast created man in thine own image and made him a living soul, teach us to study the works of thy hands. Sir Robert Boyle, the founder of modern chemistry, he says, the vastness, beauty, orderliness of heavenly bodies, the excellent structure of animals and plants and other phenomena of nature just induce an intelligence. Sir William Harvey says, all things are indeed contrived and ordered with singular providence, divine wisdom, and most admirable and incomprehensible skill, and to none can these attributes be referred save to the Almighty. Sir Joseph G. Thomson, he says, great are the works of the Lord. Francis Collins, he says in the introduction of his book, The Language of God, 2006, Francis Collins wrote, for me, the experience of sequencing the human genome and uncovering this most remarkable of all texts was both a stunning scientific achievement and an occasion of worship. Louis Pasteur. Ladies and gentlemen, let us finish with Louis Pasteur. Louis Pasteur has got a very, very beautiful speech upon this issue. He says, and Louis Pasteur, to your knowledge, he is the founder of microbiology and immunology. He says, the more I study the more I study the nature, the more I stand amazed as the work of the Creator. And he says, science brings man nearer to God. And he says, little science takes you away from God, but more of it takes you to Him. An atheist or an agnostic may jump protesting. Okay, Mr. Charrouf, don't think you have won the match yet. Don't think. You haven't won the match yet. If you have won the match in the arena of science, I'll take you to the arena of philosophy, which stands by the side of atheism. Really? Does philosophy really stand by the side of philosophy? Okay, let's see. Ladies and gentlemen, in the next episode, we are invited to visit the world of philosophy, to have a look on the opinions of some great philosophers about the existence of the Creator. See you. Thank you.